This is the interview segment for Claire Stom's project. My name is Bill Stoms, S-T-O-M-S, and I am the Communications Technology instructor or teacher at Carlisle High School. I've been teaching here for 7 years and I truly do enjoy it. I had no experience before college. What interested me was when I was in high school, I really liked photography. I did the newspaper every chance I could get. Black and white photography, shot it, developed it, put the pictures into the paper, and I just liked playing with the images, and I would spend hours in the dark room while other kids were, goofing around. I just enjoyed doing photography, and that's what led to my ultimate interest in going to college and majoring in radio, TV, film. When I first got to college, you take your gen eds, and I discovered radio, and I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing since sliced bread. Radio was fun. Then I found television, and let me tell you something, it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. All the toys to play with, it's been wonderful. It allowed me to have a career, and it's always been fun. After college, I got my first job working at WKOW Channel 27 in Madison, Wisconsin. The ABC affiliate, state capital. Long story short, I've always worked at state capitals, I've always worked at ABC affiliates, just kind of worked out that way. That was not the plan. My first job, I was hired to run the prompter and camera. Prompter for the morning news, camera for the 6 o'clock news, which was great because I actually started third from the bottom on the totem pole. I didn't start at the bottom. They hired another person at the same time who got to start at the bottom. Sorry for her, good for me. Within a year, I was directing the news at that TV station. But that's what I started out as, running prompter, 11 and a half hours a week. When I first worked at ABC 27 in Harrisburg, my job was I was hired as a technical director 3 days during the week, and I was the weekend news director. The job was more equipment related. I had to work with the crew, I worked with everybody, but it was more, make the equipment work at its peak performance, and I was very good at it. As I was there longer and longer, I started getting into jobs that required more and more people skills, which is a lot harder than dealing with the equipment. I became the production manager. I was in charge of the production department, and we had 15 people probably in the production department, and eventually from there I became special projects and commercial production, manager of the commercial production department. And the big difference is, yes, there's fewer people when I got to commercial production, but now I was dealing with clients, and in television, when you get to go out and deal with the clients, they're very leery of letting just anybody go see the clients because that's the money. That's how everybody gets paid, make the money. You have to make a good impression. So my wardrobe changed. I had to give up jeans, go to pants, every once in a while a tie, whereas when you're in production, jeans, shorts, you don't have to worry about the dress code per se. But when you're dealing with clients, and that was the big change again, people, all became more people, less technical. Still had to be good at the technical stuff, but it was more important to be able to be better at the people skills with the clients or motivating the people to work and be there on time and do a good job. When I first started there, obviously machines, working with the equipment, I got a big kick out of what I call breaking the equipment. I didn't drop it on the floor. I would take out the instruction manual and I would go through what that piece of equipment could do, and I would take it to the max. And I was pretty good at taking it beyond where it was supposed to go, and I would call that, and it would crash, and that's breaking the equipment. And then I would call the manufacturer, say, it says in the book you're supposed to be able to do this, why can't I? So it was fun for me to do that, to prove that the equipment, where the limits were on the equipment. As I came along, it became more people skills and more people items, and I started doing bigger projects, telethons, football games, a golf tournament, and getting a whole crew of people together, hiring a crew, bringing them together, bringing that whole big thing together and pulling it off successfully was the biggest thrills I ever got. That was it, bringing 20 bringing 20 to 30 guys together to do a football game, bringing 40 people together to do a golf tournament and pulling it off. That's, you know, when it's all done, it's a big thrill. Obviously, for 3 or 4 days, you're just running on empty, but at the end, it was all worth it, and it was a great thrill. At the station, did you ever feel you had to sacrifice and do the job to provide for your family, or did you truly enjoy it? Towards the end, it got a little, I started to feel that. My family had reached the point where my daughters were growing up, and I wanted to be there more, but yet working in television, even with by then I wasn't on air anymore, or it wasn't, you know, working the news anymore. But if you get out on client shoots and the client says, no, you're staying, you got to stay. And it just wore thin. You know, the client wasn't organized, and I'm the one who have to make sacrifice for their lack of planning. And that just wore thin. I wanted to be home with my family. I wanted to see my daughters grow up. And that's about the last year and a half when it got there. Before that, I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. You know, it's television, especially when I was young. You know, it's the bad weather. Well, you don't leave until the weather changes or your relief gets there. So that I understood and didn't mind. But towards the end, as my family started to grow up, I really wanted to be home and be with them and see them grow. In the TV station, it was all about getting projects done, getting things done, working together with these people to get things done. In school, it's more, you got to get the students to learn things. When they start learning something and you see them master a new skill, that's where the thrill comes from. And you just have to learn, I had to learn to rearrange my goals, because there really aren't that big, the big projects aren't there in school like they are in television, but the enjoyment and the pleasure can still be had. So I just enjoyed it's different. I'll tell you the one thing I do miss, I like the kids, I love the students, but I really miss adult conversation once in a while, because where I work at the school, there's nobody around, no other teachers, it's just me and the students. So every once in a while, an adult conversation would be nice, but I can bear that. I take pride in teaching. I no longer, you know, I still take pride in doing things, but I take more pride in watching other people do things, and I think I brought that home to my family, and I, you know, definitely, it makes you, it actually makes you feel good. When I started, early 80s, television was king. A show had to be able to do a 30 rating to be considered worthy of keeping, or I mean, a hit show had a 30 rating. If you could do above a 30, it was a big time hit. But if it dropped below 20 in ratings, it just got yanked. It wasn't good enough. Nowadays, any TV show would kill for a 20. So that's a very good rating nowadays. And it's because back in the 80s, cable was still fairly new. There were 3 networks and PBS. That's all there were. There were some independents around. If you got your cable, you got to watch your WGN or your WOR, but there wasn't a lot of choice. The biggest change is choice. Networks are still the biggest thing in town, but they don't control television anymore. The person who controls television is the viewer. With all the cable channels that everybody has, you can pick the shows that you want to watch. With your DVR, you get to watch even more control. It's the splintering of the audience. Radio's gone through this, television is going through this, and now it's getting competition from internet. So it's changed. It used to be the thing. Television stations were making money hand over fist because they were the only thing in town. If you wanted news, you had to watch the TV station. When the classic is whenever a country has a revolution, what do they take over back in the 80s? They took over the TV station and the radio stations. They wanted to control information. That was the only way information got out, television and radio. Now everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got Twitter, everybody's got Facebook. Information's flowing so fast, and there's no way anybody can control it anymore. How is it competing against the internet? It still holds its own locally. TV. If you want local news, because it's happening now, you have to get it on TV. The internet is still text-based when it comes to give it to me now. There's not a news gathering organization that will feed you a live stream of a fire, of a prison riot, because that just happens. Yes, they can do things like the Sandusky trial, because everybody knows that's coming. So the immediacy, if you need it now, it's still on TV. If you don't, if a text is fine, you can get it on the internet, but if you want to see it, you got to go to your local TV station. The internet's going to, not just news, but the internet is, I'm convinced it's going to bring the end of a lot of things. The networks are going to eventually switch to the internet. You know, all those cable channels will be coming through the internet, and they're already starting that. ESPN 360, you can watch all kinds of football games and sporting events that you wouldn't normally get to see, but you get to pick it on the internet, and there it is. So they're sending crews out to do that. But with what, Hulu, Netflix, download, streaming movies, streaming TV shows, you know, all the illegal downloading that's going on, there's a ton of it. The viewer, the consumer, is the one who's now picking and choosing, and the internet's, when the internet gets to the point where they can do live local events in a timely manner, it's happening now, you're going to see the demise of television as we know it. When I worked in television, I worked on telethons, I worked with the golf tournament, the football game. Those were fundraisers for organizations. The work I did raised money so that people could get help. The golf tournament was to help fight cancer. The football game was the Big 33 football game, which was a scholarship foundation. Telethons for United Cerebral Palsy, Leukemia Society raised money to help people who have devastating diseases and illnesses, and to do the research to help. So yes, that helped. Also, I mean, even back just doing the news, we were giving out information. I was part of the process of information going from the TV station to the viewer at home. Some of it was important. A lot of it was. Unfortunately, a lot of it was also the goofy entertainment news, which means to me it's time to turn off the TV. But it's come, that's important, getting the information out. Now that I'm a teacher, the biggest difference will be in a few years. My students have gone through high school. Some of them have completed college. They're starting to get out into the workforce. Someday, I'm going to hear from them and how they've made it and made a difference. I can't wait. You know, and I will remember them. They might not remember me, but I'll remember them. And so I'll be, even after I'm out of the business and just sitting at home in my house in the country, sipping lemonade on the porch, I'll still be making a difference because I've taught people who are going to go out there and be difference makers in the future. It also includes my family. My daughters are going to make a difference someday, which I think is totally cool. I finally got to the point where I can see my family, which I love. I've got a nice family, great family, wonderful wife, dog, cat. The only thing I have left to achieve is a nice house in the country. And someday that will happen too, and then I will have achieved my American dream. That's what I want.